All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our final conversation for 2020. We are your hosts of the RoundTable. My name is Katrina Jefferson.
Ashley Sharpton.
Reverend Travis.
And we are delighted to be here with you for our final episode, if you will. We certainly took a little bit of a pause as the year progressed and so many things were happening, not just with us personally, but certainly across the nation as well. And we definitely want to take the time tonight as we close out an entire decade to talk about some moments that stood out for us personally and happened across the world, and certainly any highlighting moments from our shows that we were able to record with you all this year. I think we wanted to start with you, Ashley.
Hey, everyone. Happy holidays, first of all. Happy Kwanzaa. Today, I believe, is the 5th day of Kwanzaa, and today is Nia. So today's word is purpose. And I think it's a good way to start off the reflection of our winners and losers of 2020 and of the decade with purpose as a theme, I guess, of this conversation. Because I feel this year, I guess, through pain and through pressure comes purpose. And a lot of people experienced a lot of pain this year. Coronavirus, COVID-19, everyone knows that basically helped define this year, unfortunately. 2020, everyone was looking at as far as starting new things, making things happen, cementing things that they've already had planned or had already started. And I don't think this year happened as far as anyone had planned. I don't think anyone has expected what actually has come about. But that's how God works, I think. And the devil had he had some things to do with it too. But I trust God, and there's always faith over fear. So at the end of the day, we're here. So when I was doing my little research for the winners and losers of 2020, I had some issues with it, because as I started thinking about the word winners and losers, it was hard to say that people were losers in this pandemic, in this environment that we all had to survive and get through. Because basically, if we get to tomorrow, if we get to the 31st, if we get to the 1st, then we all made it to another year. For those who celebrate this new year, the Chinese New Year is another time. But at the end of the day, those who made it to this year, we've survived it. So how can we say we lost if we won the opportunity to live once again? Especially during a time when so many people lost their jobs, lost their income, lost their opportunity to eat, the opportunity to love on their loved ones. The holidays, I think this is probably one of the hardest holiday seasons, because you couldn't love on the people that bring you joy. And even if you were around them, you had to have a mask on, or you had to have proof that you were not ill. And some people don't even take that serious. Some people don't even trust the test. So it's just it was hard emotionally, it was hard physically, it was hard financially for so many. And I know Reverend Travis is probably going to hit that. We're all churchgoers, but the church, where people go to find their joy and their faith and to find their strength, all of those places were closed. All of those places had changed. Those environments had changed. So it was a lot. We lost a lot, but in that, I think we found a lot because we survived it. We made it through. A lot of people had to get creative. A lot of people had to go dig deeper. A lot of people had to go serve more. They had to be humble. They had to change it up a little more. Some people didn't. Some people continued their hustles. A lot of people did that. Donald Trump, I think he was the biggest loser of the year, even though he had COVID. Even though he had COVID.
Say it again.
I think I would say if anyone had to lose, I would say for me, Ashley Sharpton, Donald Trump was the biggest loser, not just because he lost the election, because you definitely did, sir. You lost that election. I don't care what you're saying. You won't sit down. You lost. America said that. And at the end of the day, you lost that. But you gained life. And I hope that you gained some sense and some insight of what to do in America and what is legal and illegal, because I also think you're going to lose your freedom when you get out of office. But that's a 2021 conversation. But I think as far as the winners, I think we the people are the winners as far as our perseverance, our resilience. We got through, we made it through, and I'm thankful for that. So I salute all of those. Of course, the frontline workers, I salute you all. But also, I this is also personal and it's a little funny. But I couldn't have got through the pandemic without the Grubhub and the Uber Eats drivers. So all the delivery people and all of those people who made it and risked their lives for us. on the front lines, just so we can do. And that I'm not even just talking about the doctors. I'm talking about those who literally risk their lives to come bring you food. Like that salute to you. Thank you, because some people couldn't eat without it. Salute to people like advocates and those on the front line like National Network and NAACP and Urban League, because people, even though some of the buildings were shut down, the service never stopped. The service actually increased. So salute to those workers and those volunteers who actually took the time to risk their lives, put on a mask, and get in the street. Also, I must salute, as Nancy Cuddle chair and director, those young people who got in the streets this summer after George Floyd was killed, because the pandemic didn't stop the killing. The pandemic didn't stop the murder. And I don't know how cops can figure out how to arrest somebody from 6 feet across or put their knee on somebody's neck 6 feet away in social distance. But hey, that's another story. But at the end of the day, people like us risked our lives and got on the front lines and made sure that we advocated and made sure people knew that that was not acceptable, regardless of what they were trying to do, how they were trying to paint it. So I salute everyone who put other people before themselves. And even for those who didn't, those who stayed inside and figured out how to feed your kids and figured out how to get through, salute to you too, because we made it through. That's my winners and losers. Everything that you just said caused me to shift what the notes that I even wrote down, because I think that when my mind goes back to February and January, when we first started hearing a little bit about the pandemic, but we were going on as business as usual. And then here comes March. And even still up until the final announcement was made, I was one of those people who was like, first of all, this is New York City, which is where we all live. There ain't no way on this side of heaven this city is shutting down, because it can't happen. We're connected to too much commerce and life and activity happens here. But to watch that happen and to actually, of course, have lived through it and have moved through it every day, in and out, and with so much uncertainty, I forgot about all that amidst all the doing and started looking at individual moments. But you're so right, because I think if we stripped away the happenings that happened and the mere fact that people actually got up every morning, right? They got up and they were able to take a deep breath in. There were over 300,000 people who did not get that opportunity this year behind this pandemic. And that's just a pandemic when you think about it, because people still died outside of that, right? Life was still lost outside of the pandemic. But if we took away all that did happen, all the happenings like Kobe Bryant passing away, like the George Floyd, like Harvey Weinstein even, which I wrote down, him actually being convicted because it was 2 years in the making. And the fact that there were people who got up every day and just were able to breathe or find some hope, I think that definitely deserves some acknowledgement. And I remember seeing a meme right around the beginning where, well, I would say around May, where people were like, if if this pandemic happened and you don't come out of this pandemic with a business or X, Y, and Z, then in essence, you basically wasted your time, wasted your energy. And I'm like, that's not okay. And there was another one that piggybacked that talked about friendships, right? If you're not calling, checking on your friends, then you need to basically, like, you're a bad person if you're not calling and checking on everybody. It's like, no, wait a minute. First of all, we're each having an individual experience. There are 7.2 something people on this planet, because it wasn't just in the States, but across this world, who were impacted by this, right? And we're each having an individual experience. And the fact that we were able to get up every day and just take a deep breath in is worth a thank you enough. And then taking it a step further, the fact that the people, to your point, to the frontline workers and the people who were out there every day, in spite of the headlines in the news, just because their livelihood and their lives depended on it, and the lives of other people depended on that, is like, hats out to those people too. Like, forget about the businesses and the entrepreneurism and the highs and the lows, but the fact that you got up every day and you left your house not knowing whether or not you would come back infected or infecting your entire family is a message in itself. And I think it's 2020. First of all, let me take 2 steps back. 2020 for me felt like the year, like it was a year of the Twilight Zone, right? Like, we kicked off this year, we were like excited about life, or I can say personally, I was excited about life. And as were many people across this country, looking forward to new beginnings, starting different projects, and all of a sudden the pandemic hits, right? Which basically shut us down as a
across the world, let's say, and each country has had its own experience, but if we're talking about what happened in the United States, which impacted us directly, it basically shut the entire world down. And we're talking about some of the most powerful and the most active cities and epicenters in the entire world. And to live through that was an eye-opener for me. Like, you know, the Twilight Zone starts off with the creepy music, and so March was our sort of creepy time. And by the end of it, there's some kind of resolution to the story. And I was thinking about it today, like, I'm prayerful that when we do close the door on 2020, that what we're walking into is so much better than what we came out of. My mind goes back to the children of Israel, and it took what they walked, Travis, and you can help me out on this one, 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. 2020 was that 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, I think, for us as a people, as a human race, let's say that, because that encompasses everybody. But on the other side is that glimmer of hope, the possibility of a better tomorrow, where the country will hopefully, because we have a new administration, be in a completely different position. So totally excited about, on some levels, I'm going to keep it a buck. I'm excited that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are both going into office. And not to say that there's not more work to be done, but the fact that hopefully not even hopefully, let me just say it as I hear it and stop trying to sugarcoat. It's funny. When you hear the way things are supposed to come out, you try and edit it so it sounds right, and I'm going to stop that. That's one of my resolutions, to stop doing that, to communicate as I hear it, instead of trying to filter it and make it make sense. No. Okay, so I'm excited that they're coming into office for the mere fact that we won't have to look at Donald Trump anymore. I think that a lot of what happened to our country specifically, but certainly across the world, had a direct correlation to do with him being in office. And all the way from the pandemic itself, how he responded, how he did not respond, and the impact that it has left on this country and will still leave us with in days to come. And so I'm excited for that, but I'm hopeful that whatever the reasoning behind it, that as individuals we find that, and certainly as a people that we find it as well, that we take that moment, December 31st, before the clock strikes 12, that we take a moment to reflect, and we don't carry with us the stuff from 2020. If it's at all possible. For some people, it may not be possible. I think we'll still feel the effects of, for instance, the pandemic and the economic collapse because of the pandemic. But as individuals, I think we should purpose within ourselves to close the door to 2020 as much as we can, or in whatever ways we can. Maybe it's not, on some global scale, but maybe it's just in a small area, thinking positively, or it's making an adjustment for the better, for a better tomorrow. That we all do that, because 2020 was a bitch. Y'all know I cuss, but I won't cuss today. It seriously was. And it's funny, when I thought about coming into this conversation, I had like lists and lists and lists and lists, but in the moment of it, it's like none of it even matters, because the fact that we're here to even have the conversation is enough. And it's enough to be applauded. It's enough to be acknowledged. And it's enough to be celebrated, because we made it through probably one of the toughest years that any of us have ever seen. And I'll toss it to you, Travis, before I keep rambling. And then I have a couple of other things I want to, bring to the table.
I think you all have, like, in a nutshell, kind of said everything I want to say. There's two scriptures that come in mind. One is Acts 27. When Paul becomes a prisoner and he's in the bottom of a ship, mm-hmm. and he's with these other prisoners. Y'all might have heard this story before. And the ship, Paul's like, y'all, we're about to go into a shipwreck. And they don't believe him. They put him in the bottom of the boat, and they just ostracize him. And they go through this entire storm, and the ship just wrecks completely. The Bible says that some grabbed on pieces of the boat, and some grabbed on boards and whatever they could find, right? not only did the prisoners grab onto those things, but also those who kept the prisoners captive grabbed onto those things. The reality is that 2020, excuse me, was the year that we all have made it on broken pieces.
Yeah, that's the
I preached this sermon so many times before.
I like that.
And it has not come into reality until today. The fact that we have made it on broken pieces. We go from the death of Kobe Bryant in January to coronavirus in March, to George Floyd, to Ahmaud Arbery, to Breonna Taylor, to even just our own riots in our own community, in our own city, you know, by police officers running over people with cars and shooting them and killing them. The reality is that we all made it, right? And I don't know so much of discarding all of 2020, right? I don't know so much of closing the door on 2020, because the reality is 2020 has made me a better person. I don't know who can testify about that, but it has made you a better person. It has enlightened you about life. It has showed you about who the people you need to be around with. It showed you your dreams, your aspirations. I remember preaching December 31st of last year at a church out here in Harlem. And I'm like, y'all, this is going to be the best day of your lives. God's going to fulfill his promises. He's going to bring your dreams to pass. And he's going to, you know, he's going to do all these great things. The reality is we had coronavirus, but God still did those things. God still brought all the things. The Bible says in Romans 8 and 28, all things work together for the good of them that love him and are called according to his purpose. So the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, everything.
Yeah.
Every single thing is working for our good. And so, yes, in 2021, we might still deal with this pandemic. In 2021, we might still deal with the Republicans. We will continue to still deal with racism and gentrification. We're still going to deal with police brutality, black on black crime, white on black crime. We're going to deal with all of it, right? The reality is I'm not going to negate what 2020 gave me. Mm-hmm. It gave me a peace of mind. It gave me joy, even in the midst of sadness. It gave me hope in knowing that God is still able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that he can ask or think. It even gave me reassurance in knowing that I have purpose. You know, there's some people who have committed suicide this year. They survived COVID all year long, and then you're going to wait until the end of the year to commit suicide. You know, I had 3 family members die this year in the matter of 4 weeks. On top of the fact, I was in South Carolina from March 15th until May 17th, quarantining with my family. Then I had to turn around and go back in July, from July to mid-August, to bury 3 family members, 2 of which had COVID. This was a year. Like, I didn't know what was going on. You know, I didn't know how life was going to happen. We all didn't know, you know. But I think the life lesson we can take from this is that God never brings you to a storm not to lead you through the storm and bring you out of the storm.
Yeah.
Right? There are always 3 things that talk about a storm. Either you're about to go into a storm, you're in the storm, or you come out of the storm. Yeah. I believe that God brought us to the storm, he led us through the storm, and he's bringing us out of the storm. However, it is our obligation to never forget our testimony and knowing who God is in our life, and knowing what we made it through, and knowing that we are survivors at the end of the day. The Bible says that we are overcome by the word of our testimony, by the blood of the Lamb, right? So how can I overcome in life without testifying what I've been through?
Right. And
so I think this year sets a precedence for 2021, right? That all that we went through, I'm taking 2020 with me in 2021, right? Because there was some life lessons I learned here that I know is going to make me better in 2021. We're not going to be done with the pandemic in 2021. We might not be done with it in 2022, right? It's a reality, right? Our president didn't do what he said he was going to do. Of course, we knew that, right? The reality is we have new leadership. Hold them accountable. We didn't hold this last man accountable, but hold these 2 accountable, right? We celebrate the fact that she's a Black woman. Make sure we hold her accountable for doing things she needs to do for the Black community, right? Make sure that we hold him accountable for the things that he said he would do for us. You know, I think it's all in what we do and how we take. So no, don't get rid of 2020. Keep it with you.
Yeah.
Hold on to it, right? Don't let it make you bitter, but make you better.
Yeah. I was going to say, in the holding, don't let, because sometimes I think when we tell people to hold on to something, they hold on to it and that's all that they see, instead of holding on to it and using it in some way as a lesson in whatever ways possible, right? Because we're all equipped at different levels to handle crisis and tragedy and strife, so you will. Like we've looked at us, the three of us here, we've all got to the place that we are in our faith in particular by going through some things, right? But there's people out there who haven't, who aren't there, right? Who are not as strong, who are not able to get up and be positive. I talk to people every day who call me or say, I'm having a horrible week, or I'm having a horrible month, or I don't know how to get out. Right? Like, I don't know how to get out of this sort of I'll say funk, this sort of downtrodden and very heavy place. So as a minister, let me ask you this: what would you say to that person who has gone through 2020, who is still standing, but still finding it tough to think positively, right? To look at the good. What would you say to that person?
I think, and also too, we have to learn how to live in where we are, right? And so live in the bad moments, right? Live in the upset moments, right? Don't look, oh, because it's bad, I got to find a happy place. No, live in that, right? Understand that, accept it. Because I think when you accept it, you live in it, you learn it, you understand it, you make yourself better, right? Every day, the Bible says when we get to heaven, every day is going to be Sunday and the weary shall be at rest, right? We ain't in heaven, right? So we gotta make the best of where we are. And the reality is, where we are, sometimes it's not a good moment. So live in it. Live in the heartbreak. Live in the heartache. Live in the depression. Live in all of that moment, right? Accept all of it, right? Receive all of it, right? Then when you've accepted, received it, and lived in it, how do we change it? And I think that is where we get to a space where we have to learn how to change the trajectory of where we think life is taking us versus where we know that God wants us to be.
I echo that. I know you didn't ask me, but I echo that. It reminds me of a quote I put at the end of my email, and it's basically, there will be mountains in life. No matter how steep the climb, move forward every day, even if it's just one step. So I would say to keep going. Yeah. So of course, everyone has different mountains. Some might be huge mountains. Some might be little hills. But at the end of the day, like you said, the capacity of each person is different. So somebody's hill might be equal to somebody else's mountain. It doesn't matter. It depends on who the person is. But you got to keep going, because if you stop, you can't go forward. That's just human. That's logic. If you stop going up the mountain, you're either going to fall back down, but there's no way you will go forward. So in order to make any kind of progress, in order to kind of make any kind of motion to propel forward, you got to keep going. No matter how painful it is, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how lonely it gets, no matter how broke you get, you got to keep going. You got to find a way out of no way. That's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of God. There's always another way with God. There's always another option if you hold on and hold out. And I know that doesn't sound good sometimes to those who are in that despair, because I've been there, and it's like, oh, go somewhere with that. But you gotta hold on, because if you don't hold on, nobody can hold on for you at the end of the day.
I think you at that point at the end, to take it one step at a time, or at least take one step, I think is so crucial and could help so many people, because a lot of times we get caught up in the happenings, like the overall big picture, instead of acknowledging that we have the power, and the fact that we're breathing, we still have the power to take one step forward. And it might be a small step, it might be a toe tap, but we still have the power to propel ourselves forward. And even if we take that small tap might eventually turn into an entire foot, our foot being flat on the ground, heel to toe or toe to heel, however your feet move. And then that ultimately we turn into your other leg, doing the same movement until your feet are moving you forward out of the space that you were in, where it felt like there was no ending, that there was no light, there was nothing positive, and you're now finding yourself in a new space. But I think that's something, if nothing else that we talk about, will definitely help so many people, because just taking a survey with people that we've had conversations with, or at least I've had conversations with, there's so many people out there in despair. Like feeling like.
Can I also add to that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go.
No, I was going to add to something something that you said in response to what I said about the measurement, even if it's just a little tap. That's one thing I wanted to bring up, because a lot of that's from social media too, is a lot of comparison, that measurement. Some people feel like, oh, I didn't move as far as another person, or I didn't do as well, or I didn't get as many views, or I don't have as many followers. There's no gift in comparison at all. And I know I said that wrong, but that it robs you of your joy. So at the end of the day, you need to watch your measuring stick, what your journey is. If you're comparing to somebody else's, all you're doing is counting theirs. But they don't need you to count theirs. You need to count yours and worry about what you're doing in your life. So for instance, every superstar in the world, every hero, every champ, everybody that somebody looks up to, once didn't know their name. It doesn't matter if they're Beyonce or it's your mama. Yeah, at one point in life, that somebody you looked up to was a nobody. And eventually they became a somebody because they kept doing something. The girl whose shirt I have on Black Voters Matter, Latasha Brown, honestly, before 2 years ago, I never heard that woman's name in my life. A lot of people still don't know her name today, but a lot of people know her name this year because she helped to get the vote out all across the South, all over this America, really, as far as the Black vote. But because she kept going, she didn't just start. This Black Voters Matter did not just start 2 years ago. It's been going on for like literally decades. So at the end of the day, she kept going. I'm sure she had issues. I'm sure she was upset because people were getting credit for her work. Literally, Stacey Abrams this year, everyone knows Stacey Abrams' name. Latasha Brown, Stacey Abrams will tell you Latasha Brown did a lot of work. You don't know that. But you have to keep going. You have to keep going. It's not about the measurement or comparison, because if you keep going, you'll eventually get to your victory.
You know, can I say this? I think, and I agree with the both of you, social media definitely has a way of us, or not just us, but just individuals as a whole, comparing themselves to the likelihood of others, right? The reality is, and I heard this some years ago from Reverend Renee, my mother ministry, my former pastor. She said, it's not equal giving, but it's equal sacrifice. We all are not going to arrive at the same place at the same time. But if you give just as much as effort as the other person does, regardless of where they end and where you end, that is where you're supposed to be. Right?
That's all
I
agree. But I challenge.
Yeah, I was like,
but the reality is that at the end of the day, we have to understand that we are all in a space, right? We all are not where we all want to be, right? Some people are not living where they want to live. Some people are not driving what they want to drive. Some people are not making the money they want to make. It is okay, right? That is okay. You've given the best you could have given in 2020, right? Some of us could probably have given more, but the reality is we gave what we could give. And we all arrived at different destinations in different spaces and different places. But it doesn't negate the fact that what you did was better than what I did, or what you gave was better than what I gave, because what I gave was the best I could give, and what you gave was the best that you could give, right? And so we have to learn how to treat each other, right? In a space where we all can appreciate where we all are, and not just, oh, well, look, old girl over there, you know, she on Instagram in Tulum during the middle of the pandemic. No, let her be over there. You here, right? Because there might be some extra precautions she's taken to get there or do that you might not be willing to do. But you take extra precautions some other places. I realized that even when I was in South Carolina for them 3-4 months, right? I felt so bad, and I think I expressed this to you all, that I was not in New York to kind of be a light or a hand to my community as others were. I felt really bad that Canaan wasn't doing as much as they should have done, right? And so what did I do? I came up with this concept of Canaan Cares. And now every month, or maybe sometimes twice a month, we give things away to the community to help people since I've been back. It's not about when I started, it's about what I'm doing and how I'm giving and in the capacity in which I'm giving. And so we can't compare. There's some things that I should have probably done sooner. You know, there's some things I know that others have done that I might have compared to say, you know what, they did it, I should have been doing this. No. Because that's not where I was supposed to be at the moment. And this is not what God had called me to do at the moment. And we all have to realize that we all are living a God-called assignments. And so whether someone is 10 steps further than you and you are 10 steps behind them, that is where you're supposed to be. And learn to accept that. Learn to live in that.
Yes.
Learn to know that God is going to help you.
Right.
He's going to mature you.
Right.
Sometimes people get places faster than you do, but guess what? You all going to arrive at the same destination at the end of the day.
And that's all part of the message, because it's like you Ashley said about staying focused on what, I don't even know if you said it or you alluded to it, staying focused on what you feel like God is telling you to do or calling you to do. With the woman that you used, the girl who made that, the woman who made that shirt, she could have easily been sidetracked by the acknowledgement and the accolades that others were getting who were in that same space as her, but she stayed focused on what she felt like she was supposed to be doing in that moment. And look at where she is now. I think that's a message for all of us, especially in the age of social media. This year, 2020, has been like the year that the virtual world and social media has blown up to astronomical proportions. We've seen networks shut down and convert entirely to Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Clubhouse, or some other platform that allows them to still engage with their consumer or customer base on some level. But I think that the important thing to remember is if we stay focused on our assignment, that God will ultimately bring us to the place that we're supposed to be at, or to that place of glory. If you will. And that's something that I'm definitely taking with me into 2021. I honestly, when at the day that they shut down New York City, I was on my way in my head because I had heard that the city's about to shut down. I was like, okay, cool. I'll go home to California for a week. I'm gonna visit with my family because I hadn't seen them since August of 2019. And I was gonna go see my mom for a week and then come back and, pick things up from where they were and keep it moving. Well, I got a call probably 2 days before I was planning to leave, saying that, we're going to start feeding people 6 days a week from the House of Justice space. And this is with National Action Network, for those of you. I'm sitting here talking like it's just us. There's people who are going to watch us and going to be like, what is she talking about? I got a call from Minister Marshall, who was like, oh, hey, yeah, World Central Kitchen and NAN are going to feed people 6 days a week. And we're going to do it out of the House of Justice space, and kind of going through the rundown. And anyone who knows me knows that, like, when it comes to projects and stuff, like, I tend to give 100% of myself to a project, right? And at the time, I didn't know what it was going to look like. We didn't know how long it was going to be. We didn't know any of that. We just knew that there was an immediate need within our community, and as an organization, we needed to respond, which is how NAN has operated since its inception. And I was in the moment like, okay, cool. So what do we have to do? And it was a Tuesday, and we had to make it happen by Saturday and get volunteers in place and whatever the flow was going to be. And then May 21st came, and that took off literally until I want to say August 18th was the last day. And there were moments where I was probably tired or exhausted, but honestly, engaging with the people every day is what kept me personally going. But in the doing, I really got connected to purpose, my personal purpose. And it was like, there were so many instances where the light bulbs would go off for me, where I felt like, okay, I'm in the right space. Okay, God, this is you. Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. To where now, if somebody told me we need to push a ship into the Hudson and push it for 35 days, I'd be like, all right, so how many people we need and what day and where and all that. Like, that's what it did for me. But to your point, if I had sidetracked and just thought about, well, I ain't seen my family in 6 months, I need to go home. I miss my mom, or I miss my siblings, or I miss my grandfather, or so-and-so and so-and-so, that I possibly could have missed the ship when it comes to, or missed the ship, and I'll say missed the opportunity as it pertains to my purpose. And not to say anybody who chose otherwise is wrong or did bad, because they were presented with an opportunity and didn't jump into it. There's something wrong with that. There isn't, because each of us are going to do different things. But I'm saying for myself personally, I was able to, in this year and in the midst of the doing, stay focused and connect in a stronger way to my purpose. So where 2021 is coming, where it's like, the lid is off. Whatever it is that we're called to do, or I'm called to do, or I'm asked to do, as long as it resonates within me, I'm moving forward with it, like a Mad truck and 16 wheels on it.
You know, and I applaud you, Katrina, because
No, it wasn't me. Don't applaud me.
But I applaud you. I applaud your efforts and your courageousness, because your father just recently passed prior to all of this.
Yeah, that was the last time I was home.
And that was the last time you were home. And I know that being around your family and wanting to be with them, especially in this, mourning period that you all, are going through. I'm sorry. But I can understand you understood what your family was, but you understood what your purpose was. And you understood that God had called you to a space, where you needed to be, and sometimes, again, it's not equal giving, but it's equal sacrifice. Sometimes you have to sacrifice things that you want to do in order to do what God needs you to do.
Of course.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to what you said. I'm sorry. Yes. I was trying to wait patiently about what you just said it again. So equal giving to equal sacrifice. So to me, I feel like I understand what you're saying, but I feel like also it's not realistic in my opinion, and just in my opinion, because I feel like it's a kind of godlike complex, because who's measuring the sacrifice? You're not in, people are not in they're not in the way to measure someone's sacrifice. You don't know what anyone's going through. You don't know. You can only assume. You can only assume what you know. So like, for instance, as far as the for what was going on this summer, as far as the distribution, some of them just needed some extra money and wanted to volunteer and wanted to be out their house. Some of them literally needed that. Some of them literally were in shelters, did not have a way to get to Nan. Literally, only way they were surviving was coming to serve. Their sacrifice cannot ever be measured or compared because you don't know it. So I feel personally, I understand what Reverend Renee said, but I feel like that's also not a really good way to look at things, because you can never understand someone's sacrifice because you don't know it. Right. And who knows if they'll ever be honest enough to tell you? Who knows? Right. We don't know what you went through. You just told us what you went through, but I'm sure that's not all you went through. We know what you went through, Katrina, but I don't know all you went through. So all I'm saying is, I think that again, about comparison, I feel like there's judgment and comparison. I feel like that there is, as far as sacrifice, I feel like you really can't say sacrifice because we're not God. You can't measure someone's sacrifice unless it's the same meat, meat and calf or whatever. But even if that calf, you don't know what somebody did to get the calf. All I'm doing is correcting language, because that was one thing I learned this year. That's one thing about me, is communication is a major key. I am very, very transparent. And some people consider it rude, but that's just
I don't but think it's rude. But at the end of the day,
I've learned that miscommunication. No. Let me finish. Miscommunication leads to all nonsense at all times. And people, if they communicate and if they are really genuine and real and they stay focused, forget sacrifice, forget all that stuff, because you can't do that. All you can do is be human and be you and worry about what you sacrifice, because you are the only person you're responsible for when you go up in heaven. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's more so that the fact that it's not necessarily about the concept of equal giving, but it's I'm sacrificing my time. I'm sacrificing my money.
But you can't measure equal.
Right.
You
can't
measure.
Hold on. But I think it's more so.
I think this will help to our initial point. If you got up every day and just breathed, that is enough. So measuring, to your point, we shouldn't look at things that way.
You can't measure.
Right.
Because each of us are there 7 point, and there might be more now, because there's babies been born in the last, since I'm sure they did the last global count, but there is 7-point-something billion people in this planet, and we each have a different experience. We each live a different experience. So the fact that you just got up and breathed, if that was your story, amen to that. Right.
But I also, if I can say this, it's not about the giving or the sacrifice, because the reality is that you're giving, we can give the same amount, right? But what do we sacrifice? And it's not about a space of judgment or a space of you giving more or you sacrificing more, and it puts me in a space, in a better place with God. No, I think what I'm trying to convey to you is that the idea of we give and we always give, right? And I think our giving is different than our sacrifice. I can give money, but my time, my treasures, my love, I'm sacrificing, all those things to make sure I'm there to support. And I think in 2020, we've all been in that space where we've all sacrificed that moment to make sure that we were all there for someone else beyond just ourselves.
Right.
And so, no, it's not about us judging the other person based off of their giving, but I think it's all not even just about judging about the sacrifice, but we all have given a moment and a space and a time of something that we had not given before. And so I don't want it to ever come construed like, it's equal giving. It's not equal giving. It's equal sacrificing. No. But we all sacrificed something this year, right? To all get to where we need to be. We all have done
but I just
something.
feel like it can't be measured.
Right.
No, it's never measured. Not ever measured. Not ever measured. Not ever measured. And the great thing about it is that God never measures my giving and my sacrifice to your giving and your sacrifice to make me better or greater than anyone else.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's my point in this whole thing. Is the point is well, that's what I was trying to say in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying is that you just say equal
and
sacrifice.
And maybe I didn't make that
clear,
clear.
No one can say something is equal sacrifice because you can't measure someone else's sacrifice. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and to your point, your language
because
point.
You cannot say something is equal. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm sorry. But
No, don't apologize. To your language point, because we have people, we're having a conversation amongst ourselves in terms of recording, but there are other people that are viewing that don't have the same experiences that we have, right? They haven't lived what we live. They don't walk what we walk. They don't believe what we believe, but they're still, I think it's something to take away from this moment in the conversation is to be mindful of how we word and phrase things so that everyone can not necessarily feel inclusive, but that we're mindful of everyone that may be watching this, right? Because the whole goal is for everybody to be able to get something out of this, right? This is not just, I think what the beautiful thing about the round table is the fact that we are very similar, but we're also very diverse. And there's something that each and every person that comes to our platform that they'll be able to glean from, or they should be able to glean from our conversations and be able to take it away into their respective lives. At least that's the thought or the goal that I have or I thought of when it came to the round table.
And I think more so, what are we all sacrificing, right? What have we all sacrificed? And so at the end of the day, we all must sacrifice something. Right? Whether it's our time, our love, whether it's our money, whether it's our giving, I know there's just some things that I know that I had to sacrifice. I had to sacrifice being around my family as much this year with making sure that I'm at the church to make sure that things are flowing the way they need to for our community. So that way we don't come off as a place where we're just asking for people for money or asking people, just to give and give and give, and we're not giving. Right? And so our sacrifices, my sacrifices is that I sacrifice my time from other spaces to make sure that other things work. Now, do I neglect them? No. Right? I make sure that I make them up in other areas, in other relationships that I have. I make sure I make those things up in other areas. But I think it's all we all must sacrifice something at the end of the day. And we all must give something at the end of the day. And so whether it's equal or it's not, it is our responsibility to make sure we do, and we sacrifice and we give.
But
I agree. I just don't feel like it doesn't matter if it's equal. I don't think that should even be in the statement. I just feel like you should be doing. That's all I'm saying. I don't feel like it should be, who cares what's equal and what's not because we don't know the measurement. We can't measure it. We should be worried about just doing and prospering and giving. That's all I'm saying. I just feel like that part of it is off.
I agree.
But that's just my opinion.
I think doing and giving for you, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, whatever that looks like for you.
Like for us here, and then certainly for the listener, whatever that looks like for you. It's gonna look very differently because we're all different. We all have different experiences, and we wake up to different circumstances each and every day. We have this all of 2020, and certainly this entire decade that we are walking out of, so to speak. But do whatever is doable for you. Just do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like. Just make sure that you're doing, and you're doing my just.
And I'm just
right then.
I'm speaking. I don't want people to understand. I'm not speaking on person like me. I'm talking about when I speak and I'm talking about the round table. I always think about like Nan. I always think about the those who are the most less fortunate. Now people like Shay Shay, who I've known since I was a little girl, who we don't know where she lives. No, I'm serious, and it's. When I'm talking about that, as far as sacrifice, I know I've been at all points at Nan, and I've heard people's conversations. And some people measure people's activeness by how many people come every Saturday to the rally. Some people can't come to the rally every Saturday. And I know this has nothing to do with what, like we were talking about, but I'm just saying an example as far as sacrifice. Some people do judge wrongly or judge on the wrong accord, and you shouldn't even be worried about. Shay Shay has a hard time walking up the block, honestly, with her cart. You don't know her sacrifice. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about people assuming. You can assume what you want about me. I'm talking about the least of these. Because like you said earlier, both of y'all said earlier, everybody in the world was affected by this pandemic this year. So a lot of people had to be humble. Everybody, it doesn't matter. Broadway, everybody on Broadway has been closed, Doc. Closed. So that means every Broadway actor was not getting a check. That means a lot of people was on getting government help that some people didn't even need it. But technically, because they fit into that whatever, they were laid off, they get a check. But my point is, at the end of the day, I just have to say that because you just said the equal sacrifice thing. That just got me because I just feel like there's a privilege there, and privilege has to be checked. 2020, that was one of the things that definitely had to be checked. There's a privilege in saying that statement equal, because that privilege alone and equal you have to measure, and there's a privilege to measure someone else's sacrifice. That's
right. And I think more so that the equal sacrifices is that I know for me, right, my New Year's resolution, and I made even William Allen, I told him, I said, my reality is that, you know, my reality is that I try to do as much as I can, just like, you know, Nan, especially at Canaan at the church. But my
see what you just did? See what you just did? Hold on. Stop just liking. No, just like. No, hold on. That's what I'm talking about.
Hold on.
That's comparison.
Hold on. But that is my that was my comparison, right? But the reality is that I know that I have to be
you out of it, but you go ahead and share.
Right. But my reality is that I know I have to be more active in Nan and do more things to make sure I incorporate.
You don't have to.
No. I said me.
Who told you that you had to?
Okay.
Who said?
I know. Hold on. I know that I have to be. Right. I do. That is my responsibility. Okay. That is my sacrifice for 2021. So you will see me every Saturday, 2021, at Nan and being very supportive and making sure that I'm there. So not.
That was your personal message from God.
Huh?
I'm asking. Was that your personal message from God?
It was my conviction. It was my conviction. Because I knew that I should have been there. I know that was something when I came back in 2015, when I joined in membership, that was my obligation that I had set, but I had not done, and I had not put it in place. And so I knew, even in my space of giving, and I know that Nan gives, it's not about, like, oh, if Nan gives, I'm going to give. No, I know that I want to be a part of an organization that has the same thinking as I do, has the same values as I do, has the same concepts as I do. And I want to make sure that not only do I pour into them, that Nan is able to pour into me as well, too. And so, no, it's not about, I'm going to equally sacrifice the same thing. But if we're all sacrificing something at the end of the day, you know, to make a common good for people, I think that's way more important than anything else.
But I don't think people should, I don't want people to walk away from this saying, feeling like they have to sacrifice something.
No, you don't have to.
I think breathing,
you don't have to.
We're all called to do different things. Correct. And for you, getting up in the morning and just taking a deep breath in, maybe is enough.
Right.
For you in that moment. It could look like that for some people. For millions of people whose lives one day were, you know, at the top of the top, and in one instant, they're now coming to organizations like National Action Network to get resources, to get food every day, to get a little bit of hope, to get a smile from somebody, just knowing that they could walk past a building 6 times a week and get a smile. There's a lot of people who that alone carry them through, right? And so I don't want people to feel like it has to be like, it has to be a sacrifice because for them it may not be. It may look very different. It may just be something as simple as opening their eyes in the morning and breathing.
I totally agree with you.
And
that's all we are required to do.
That took a lot of energy. The same amount of energy it took us to make the sacrifices that we've made.
But we've all made some sort of sacrifice at the end of the day.
It's a language.
Yeah.
I think the kids say it's a whatever. It's a blah 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 for me. It's a blah 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 for me. It's the language.
I understand.
Language is triggering me, and I'm like, it's the Libra, right? My personality is to be balanced to make sure that the perception on at least the way I think, is like everybody else that could be watching it is having a balanced experience. They're not getting a one-sided or a conversation. So that's where it's coming from. It's not like I'm trying to pick apart.
No, yeah, no.
That's what is.
I'm just critical. Yes, in life. So.
And that is okay. And we all have our own differences and our own opinions and thinking, and that works for all of us at the end of the day. We all are individuals, and that's what makes us the great people that we are. So
yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
We are. Well, Travis, what month were you born? This is a pivot.
So I was born January 8th. Next Friday.
You already
okay.
I have this saying that
I only know Virgos and Libras. And I know others. I don't know much about Capricorn.
I'm sorry to hear that. But you should know us, because here's a great thing about us.
What?
We end the year and we start the year. So without us, there is no you. How about it?
Whatever.
You sound like Alpha Omega. That'd be another. Yeah. I think Travis has the God complex, y'all. He has the God complex.
That's the Capricorn. That is it. They have, and they're the ones that tend to make that. Then you have the
Alpha and Omega
too.
Right. Right.
And then you have the Libras that are always like this.
Lord.
So it's like this.
I'm sorry.
All the work in progress.
Yeah, you know, because you know. And I know because I know.
I'm sorry, but all I'm going to say, this is a great year. I can't speak for December babies or Capricorns. I can only speak for January Capricorns. And, we're the best, We give y'all the best of the year. Yeah. We give y'all hope.
Because they
give y'all hope. It's all right.
No, you didn't give us. I was born with hope.
It's all right. We give you hope for the year. It's all right.
They're a little delusional too. It's their ego.
They tend to be cloudy because it's happening in month. It's very foggy. There's a lot of clouds. Snow. Snow is very.
But you know what? I've learned.
You can't see through snow. You can't see through fog. It happens in the winter month where the gray, the cloak, the darkness comes across the face of the earth. Come on.
But you know what I've learned? You know what I learned in 2020? As a Capricorn, right? And they say, as a preacher, you should never be in these zodiac signs, right? So I take it based off of what we all.
How do wise make it to Bethlehem? What they follow?
The sign. But here we go.
Well,
they follow.
Amen.
They follow the sign, which was the star.
Stars, right?
But the reality is that at the end of the day, I learned that I must become a better person, whether I'm a Capricorn, whether someone's a Libra or a Virgo or a Cancer. I've learned to become a better person. I've learned to become whole with myself, right? When you don't have anything and you've given, like someone asked me last year, so January 17th makes a year that I've left education, right? Or teaching rather. Because I don't think I'll ever leave education. And they said, well, how are you going to pay your bills and do this and do that? And I said, you know what? That's not my problem. That's God's problem. And I've learned how to make everything that I go through God's problem. Because he brought me through this, brought me to it. He's going to bring me through it. And so whoever we are, whatever sign we are, whatever we do, I've learned that in this, I swear, not even I swear, I'm letting y'all know where I'm at. Is that happiness resides here, and I'm only accepting people in my life who adds to happiness. If you can't add to it, go ahead and walk away. Find it somewhere else and then come and bring it back. If not, it's cool. But we can. I'm not in a space where I was the same way I was in January and December 30th. Mm-hmm. I'm in a totally different space.
I want to echo.
Yeah.
Come on, echo.
I want to echo. So 2 things that you said made me think of 2 things. So as far as isolation, I agree totally. I feel like that is one thing that I feel like God might have done this for, is to make sure everyone goes on their own, reflect, isolate. You got to look in the mirror and see what's wrong, the good and the bad. A mirror is not just to, reflect, it's to correct what you see, like Reverend Sharpton always says. So I personally, I took time to be alone and be myself, get to know yourself. You got to fall in love with yourself. You got to fall in like with yourself. You got to make sure you're together, because if you're not together, you can't pour into others. You cannot pour from an empty cup, as everyone always says. So hopefully my wish for everyone this year, if you did not get that opportunity, because some people, like, a lot of nurses are still in the front line working, their behinds off, get to know yourself. Take that time to get to know yourself, because there's nobody else you're going to spend more time with in the world than you. You will always be you. You are allowed to change. You're allowed to grow, but you will always be you. And get to know God, because God made you. So at the end of the day, I feel like this is the time, this is the season, this is the rebirth. 2021, everyone always says it's a new year, but at the end of the day, it is time. You're coming out your cocoon. It's time to become the butterfly that you were all inside in season. But also there's one thing I want to add. So in the beginning, I said the only loser was Donald Trump. This is bad. This is sad what I'm about to say, but it reminded me because you said you were an educator. Who also lost this year was every person that's a student, especially our children in our community. Minority students were already suffering. Those in public education was already getting the lower edge of the stick. But at the end of the day, through this pandemic, everybody going through different learning, online learning, or everything, education system completely has changed. So many people are now further behind. A lot of people were behind, now they're further behind. And there's not really a solution happening as far as I see it to fix it. And it's not just in middle school, it's not just in high school, it's from college, from preschool to college, from preschool to grad school. And that's a problem. So I salute those who are still doing it and who are in the system or who graduated during this time. But I know I've seen young people trying to study on their computers, trying to be in class, and they're completely over it. They're completely at a disadvantage. So if there is some way we can help our young people next year or whatever, if you know if there's more things that educators can tell us, or that can help parents, because my sister is a mom. And he's not in school fully yet, but he goes to daycare. And at the end of the day, that affects them. If they can't learn and the parents can't go to work.
Happy belated birthday to him, by the way.
Yes, his birthday was yesterday. Yes, but still, education, as far as that, we're losing it there, as far as education, and that's a problem for me, and I need us to figure that out. The Biden-Harris administration, yes, we are excited for you. Yes, we helped to put you in office. That's damn right. I said it, I'm going to curse. We helped to put you in office. But at the end of the day, we need y'all to help our young people, our youth, our students. That is a wish for me, and I'm gonna kick it to your behinds and make sure that happens.
Right. Absolutely, and to your point, as we would with any administration, like let's not think that. I think people get the impression that, because it's a Biden and it's because of the first Black woman, that now we're deciding to hold them accountable. No, you should hold every administration accountable, and that's on the national and certainly on the local level. Because what a lot of people, I think 2020 taught a lot of people, is that the local level is what powers the national level. And so to everyone that's listening, that please tap into your local elections. And that's everything from the school the superintendent, the electable positions on the district level, city council, state level, and then certainly on the national level as well. Travis, what are some of your
Georgia vote?
Vote, register, first of all.
January 5th.
Do it by yourself. Register your family, your cousins, your aunties, and them. Let that be a conversation that propels you into 2021. Because if this year didn't teach us anything, it taught us the power of the vote on a number of different levels.
I agree.
From the top all the way to the local level as well. But Travis, what are some of your takeaways for 2020? And then I'll close it.
I think one of my takeaways for 2020 was, and we joked about it, but just having hope, understanding that there was good, there was bad, there was sometimes, but just having hope in all of it, hope that things are going to get better, hope that we're going to live better, we're going to talk better, we're going to breathe better, we're going to live better, we'll understand better, we'll walk better, just hope in life, hope the fact that, mass incarceration will go down, and hope that, the Biden-Harris administration will do what they've promised, hope in the fact that not only will, individuals get the $600, but $2,000, and then some to help those who need it. Because the reality is that there are a whole lot of people who don't need it, and a whole bunch of big businesses who are going to get blessed from this, whole COVID relief situation. But there are people who need it, So hoping that our communities will live better and stay strong, and we would, stop hurting each other, but healing each other. So that's my takeaway, is that we have hope. I'm taking away the fact that there has been hope, the hope is there, and that we will live in hope, and we'll move in hope, and we'll make sure that we construct life in hope, and knowing that everything works out.
It's all for the good.
It's all for the good. All things.
Regardless of how things appear.
Yes.
It's always for the good. And I applaud everybody that has made it to December. Today is December 30th. By the time we release this, it'll be the 31st or the 1st. And so we applaud everybody that has made it this far. 2020 was a bitch of a year. It certainly took us as a country, as a world, through a lot. It took us as individuals through a lot. But there is still a higher power. There's still a God, as each of the three of us believe. There's a God that we serve, however we serve him, that is still on the throne, that has this a part of all of ours plan. And so I think for me, a takeaway is probably a piggyback of yours, to hope, but also to piggyback off of what Ashley shared earlier on. Put one step forward, even if it looks like a toe. It's not a whole step yet. Know that if it's a toe, if it's a finger forward, that is tremendous enough, and you should celebrate that as well. But at least put that toe forward, put that finger forward, put whatever it is that you have forward, and then two, so that and which will ultimately turn into a complete step, which will ultimately turn into 2 or 3 steps, which will ultimately mean you being from out of one position into another, if that is your desire. And I think the second would be, the takeaway would be, is to connect with your community and to those that are around you. I think any time that you're going through a crisis or through a tumultuous season, that it's important to have people around you that matter, and then that can support you when you're having a low moment or a low day, so that you're not wearing the weight of it all on your own. And know that there are people out there that love you and that are here to support you. There are organizations like the National Action Network that are out here and every day that love you, that are here to support you, that are here to push you and encourage you and uplift you as you experience whatever it is that you're experiencing. So 2020 was a year, but we certainly have 2021 to look forward to, and only because it is close to our time frame that we wanted to package this conversation. We're going to close it out for 2020 for our final roundtable conversation of the year. We have so much in store for 2021 and look forward to each and every one of you being a part of our journey as a show, as individuals, because we each bring a piece of ourselves to the table every week or every other week, however it looks. But we encourage you to follow us, to message us. If there's something you want to bring to the forefront or share, you can email us or share a comment on the video once you see it here. Yeah, go ahead, Ash.
I'm going to add 2 sentences.
Come on.
One thing, we are resilient. We are brilliant. We can do anything. Everything you did this year, we did it through a virus that they said was deadly. We never heard of it. They said so much when they first came out with this. But we made it through, y'all. We still here. Like, that's, to me, that's so fire. To God be the glory. There's nothing that we cannot do. And at the end of this decade, I do believe that God put it in the book, all of us that's here, we were put here because we were here for such a time such as this. Absolutely. So it's time to stand up, own those gifts, and push through. That's what I'm going to do, and I hope you do the same. And Roundtable, I know everybody here is doing the same.
Now you got me excited. I was like, is it tomorrow?
And that's up.
You know, we might just have to have a specific ordination service. We might have to have a specific ordination service for Ashley, because she's been preaching all night long.
Wait, okay. Can we? We're brilliant, we're resilient, and...
Brilliant.
No, that she said 3 words. Brilliant.
She said resilient, brilliant, and...
Man. Oh, I see. I already.
Oh, come on.
We can do anything.
We can do anything. We're brilliant.
We're
resilient, and we can do anything. I'm gonna share that on Saturday because it's important.
Yes. No, we're brilliant. We're resilient, and we were made for such a time as this. That's what it is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're brilliant. We're resilient. We were made for such a time as this. That's gonna open the What's on Your Mind segment for Saturday.
Amen. Go right there.
You think I'm kidding? I'm taking, first of all, it's straight through. And I'm all the 6 or 7 or 8 minutes. We gonna get it, because people need to hear this, and they need to feel empowered and inspired. And that, for me, was tremendous, because it's like, okay, we can do anything. No, you've given me the fire, and we're now giving it to you. Each and every one of you who are listening or watching or however you're viewing us, we're giving that to you. You are brilliant, resilient, and you can do Absolutely anything. For the mere fact that you are here looking at it or listening to it, and you made it through 2020. And we look forward to all that God has for you in 2021. We are your hosts, Katrina Jefferson.
Reverend
Ashley
Travis.
Sharpton.
And Reverend Travis.
And thank you for tuning in to the Roundtable. We'll see you in 2021. Get ready, y'all.